Yo, welcome to episode 3 of Green Habits. Before starting this podcast, I just want to give a bit of context as to the date at the minute. It is absolutely roasting outside. I think tomorrow we're expecting the UK's hottest day ever, some 37 degrees, which is a bit mad, and obviously relevant to what the podcast is kind of standing for. So I just wanted to start by giving a quick shout out, or I wanted to just say that while you're driving to your barbecues this weekend and whatnot, and obviously in the UK potentially, it might be one of the best weekends of the year. And while you're having your barbecues, your meaty barbecues, just think about those people who, they haven't got rivers to live off because they're all drying up, and the people whose livelihoods are, or whose neighbourhoods are being displaced by like rising sea levels due to the heat and whatnot, which obviously is a bit deep, but that's the harsh reality for some of the people out there. So just bear that in mind this weekend. And on to the podcast. So I wanna talk about today how to become vegetarian, which is obviously, as I mentioned in the last podcast, Simon Sinek's middle circle of creating lasting change. And this is all about realistically how, because obviously me being vegetarian isn't really going to make a massive impact, but the massive impact will be if I can spread the word and try to convince people to also not necessarily turn vegetarian, but just eat less meat, and also hopefully some of the things I talk through in this episode can be transferred into other greener habits, such as taking more ethical forms of transport. An example that Simon Sinek gives in his book is obviously Martin Luther King, and I'm not in any way, shape or form comparing myself to Martin Luther King, but he had a dream about having equal rights in America, and it wasn't him. He wasn't the person that created the legislations that allowed black people to vote and to have equal rights in any way, shape or form. But it was all of the millions who he convinced to get on board who led to getting America closer to where they want to be in terms of equal rights. Obviously, they're still miles off it, but we won't get into that. And what I'm going to use, or what I'm mainly going to reference throughout the podcast, is James Clear's book on atomic habits, and I'm going to use a few of his little theories to relate them to vegetarianism. But as I say, they're very, very transferable habits, and I would highly recommend the book. So if you've got some spare time, give it a little read. It's all about how atomic changes, so very, very small changes in your life, can lead to drastic changes over longer periods of time. I really like the way he uses the atomic word, in that it can mean atomic being very, very small, but also atomic in terms of an atomic bomb, which obviously can have drastic impacts. And what he talks through in the book is a habit cycle having 4 stages. So anytime you have kind of an automatic say action in your life, it often occurs due to these 4 stages, which are cue, being something happens, like, for example, someone else pulls out their vape, therefore you start thinking about vaping. The second thing is craving, which is, as I say, you start craving wanting to take that vape or wanting to take a puff of the vape. Your response then is how you how you respond to the craving, and the reward is the feeling you get after taking that action. And he talks about, essentially, if you can impact these 4 stages of the habit cycle, ranging across many different types of habits, you can have these drastic impacts in your individual life. So, for example, with a cue, if you make something really obvious, so say you lay out all of your exercise stuff in the morning or ready for the morning, you wake up first thing and it's automatically there. You just think, right, boom, exercise stuff is on, and there we go, we're going to the gym. Likewise, if you've got a bad habit and you make it invisible, then it's less likely you're going to engage in it. So if you don't go out and buy a deck of cigarettes on a night out, it's going to be that little bit harder to smoke cigarettes. Likewise with the craving stage, if you make something a little bit more attractive to do, it's going to increase your chances of performing the habit. So I don't know. So, for example, with being vegetarian, if you pick out a nice vegetarian meal, you're going to be more likely to eat a vegetarian meal as opposed to one containing meat. You've also got then with the response, with your response to that given craving, if you make it easier to have that response, it will then lead to, again, increasing the chances of you performing the habit. So, for example, if you pick a gym that's closer to your home, and you've got your exercise equipment on, it's more likely you're going to go to a gym that's a 5-minute walk from your house than if there's one maybe a 10-minute drive away. And then the reward is all about that feeling that you get after performing an action, which refers to can't remember, to be honest. But yeah, if something's more satisfying, if you get more satisfaction from something, like, so say if you go for a run, you get a nice feeling after the run. Therefore, you're going to want to perform the habit again. And the more satisfaction that you get from something, the more likely you are to repeat that habit again. Now, I believe that when it comes to being vegetarian, a lot of people are actually aware of both the health benefits and the environmental benefits of being vegetarian. It's becoming quite common knowledge for people in our generation, due partially just to it being a trend and a lot of people picking up on it. But commonly, I know with a lot of my friends, the reasons for not becoming vegetarian are, one, that it's not very attractive. So the craving you get when you want to eat a meal Say you get hungry, you don't necessarily crave a vegetarian meal a lot of the time. You crave like takeaways or just like a big meat feast, like a burger or something like that. And the second thing is the response phase. So I think a lot of people struggle to think of, say, like enjoyable vegetarian meals to make, and therefore they always just resort back to the easy meals that they know, like fajitas or curries, which are all mainly kind of, well, they can be vegetarian, but they're generally, people know them as being meat-based meals. And so the attractiveness and the easiness are two things that I'm going to try to address and suggest how they can be overcome, therefore leading to adopting vegetarianism being a slightly easier habit to adopt. And I've got a few ways that you can make being vegetarian slightly more attractive. And James Clear in his book talks about the idea of a dopamine strike leading to you craving that action slightly more. And by that, I mean, for example, when you're anticipating an action, like, say, going on holiday, or I can't relate, but they say cocaine addicts look forward to that craving of, say, for example, going on holiday or having a bump of cocaine. People look forward to that more and for longer than they actually do the physical act of enjoying the experience. So I can definitely relate. Say, when you're looking forward to a holiday, you look forward to it for like 4 or 5 months from booking it, and then when you're on holiday, it's not as enjoyable as that dopamine build up before going on holiday. Obviously, it doesn't stop you going on holiday, like understanding that, but similarly, with having a vegetarian meal, it's all about building that dopamine before having the vegetarian meal, so that therefore it's a more attractive habit. And there's a few ways that you can make having a vegetarian meal more attractive for yourself. So the first one is actually discovering vegetarian meals that you enjoy. This can just involve like experimenting when you're out with your friends and whatnot at restaurants, just trying the vegetarian alternative. I've discovered like sweet chili halloumi wraps are banging. I had a like vegetarian ramen at Wagamama's the other week, which was like, had this like beef alternative. I think it was like soy protein. Soy protein beef alternative, which genuinely was nice. Like, I've tried a lot of like seitans and like tofus in the past, which do just taste like rubber, but sometimes you can actually stumble across one that's banging, and that can inspire you then to try and whip up a similar sort of meal at home when you're eating. Another way that you can increase that dopamine here is James Clear refers to habit stacking. So say you want to become vegetarian, you can then reward yourself after eating a vegetarian meal with something else that you enjoy. So, for example, if you have a healthy vegetarian meal, you can then reward yourself every time with a cookie after, or a cake or something, and this will then lead to you anticipating that vegetarian meal and that dopamine build up, and you getting excited for the vegetarian meal because you're going to get something that you enjoy after. Another one is you can highlight the benefits of eating vegetarian and continually remind yourself of them. So, for example, if you've watched my why video before this, and you agree with some of the principles, or you're aware of the health benefits of being vegetarian, then constantly reminding yourself of these sort of things, maybe making a list of them, can also lead to that excitement build up before having a vegetarian meal. And yeah, I've also written down here that you can change your perception about something. So you can kind of make meat seem disgusting. Obviously, it sounds weird to someone that just eats meat at the minute, but I used to really enjoy burgers. Like probably this time last year, I used to love beef burgers, but now I look at it, and just because of kind of the background research I've done on the impacts of eating like red meat, and whatnot, I've just, my perception's changed about a burger. I don't look at a beef burger the same as I look at a vegetarian burger. Like the vegetarian burger, it's not even anything to do with trying to eat more vegetarian. Vegetarian burger genuinely just looks nicer and is more appealing. And it's similar with, like, say, smoking cigarettes. I used to smoke cigarettes on nights out. Now I can't even like bear the thought of having one. And I know a lot of people have also had the same sort of switch to smoking vapes and whatnot. Obviously, on a side note, apparently vapes aren't great for you, but yeah, it's all about switching that perception basically, and you looking at something and thinking, do you know what, that's just not even attractive to me anymore. And then James Clear also touches upon social groups having a massive impact on this. So I'm not saying ditch all your friends that eat meat. Obviously, like there's not even that much. It's not even that bad of an impact. But if you're around more people that are on board with vegetarianism, or being open-minded to trying different meals, and that aren't gonna, pick on you if you order a vegetarian meal when you're out. These sorts of people are the people that are going to help you in adopting new, better habits. Similarly to if you want to start hitting the gym, if you've got a gym partner, you're going to want to go to the gym more often because they're going to egg you on to do it. That sort of thing. And then the other thing, obviously, I touched upon is making it easy to be vegetarian. James Clear talks about human nature following a law of least effort, which is basically where a human, and I could definitely relate, if a human is provided with two actionable choices, they're often going to pick the one that requires less effort, the least effort. And this has existed as far back as humans have been conscious, kind of thing. And he talks about an interesting example as to the evolution of agriculture, when humans first coming about, and the fact those when they were first building farms, those colonies used to build their farms, or those that were building their farms along latitudinal lines developed their farms at 2 or 3 times the rate as those that were building their farms at longitudinal lines. So essentially, those like tribes and colonies that existed like in France across along a latitudinal line to China, their like economies and tribes grew at a far faster rate due to the fact it's easier to farm those lands due to having similar conditions. So obviously it's a bit unrelated, but I thought it was quite interesting, in that, you know, those people decided to go with the easier option there, as opposed to those trying to harvest like longitudinal lines where they would have to gather loads of different types of plants or loads of different types of nutrition, or because different plants harvested better in different conditions along a longitudinal line, say in North America or South America or Africa. And so how does this relate to, say, you making your vegetarian diet a little bit easier? And it's all about basically creating the ideal conditions so that integrating a vegetarian diet into your lifestyle is frictionless. And you know, you can use this, you can do this via, like, say, just getting recipes up and just ordering all of the ingredients for the recipes via online shopping. Another thing is like consuming or like chopping up all of your vegetables over the weekend, or say like frying some halloumi or cooking like curried chickpeas for sandwiches over the weekend when you're in a state of flow. You know, just commit like an hour to just preparing for the full week, so that then throughout the week you can just grab whatever you want to go into like your vegetarian wraps or your vegetarian sandwiches. You can also use habit shaping, James Clear refers to it as, which is the idea of avoiding like setting your goals a little bit too high. So he says, for example, if you want to get to the point of doing 100 press ups a morning, or say you set the goal of doing 100 press ups every morning for however long, that sounds ideal. You might be able to do 100 press ups one morning, while you've got the motivation and the energy and that initial kind of dopamine rush. However, in a week's time, 100 press ups, it's just not sustainable. You ain't going to be able to do it every morning. It's too difficult. So it's more about just setting yourself goals, say like doing one press up every morning, and then for a week, and then like maybe increasing every so often, you see what I mean? And just, you know, gradually building yourself up to that point where it comes naturally. And you can do something similar with a vegetarian diet, in that, you know, the first step, for example, is just trying to integrate more veggies into your evening meals. And then once you've accomplished that, and once you quite consistently getting the veggies in, you can start to cut out eating animals with four legs, like cows, pigs, etc. And then once you've got used to that, you move on to not eating animals with legs, and then so you become a pescatarian, and then you stop eating animals with no legs, hence being vegetarian. And then the end goal is to become vegan, which I can't quite accomplish yet, but you know, as I say, it's all about building gradually upon time, so that eventually you get to where you want to be. So yeah, and I also, just before I finish, wanted to touch upon another podcast that I was listening to, which was really good, about how you can adopt better habits, which is Rangan Chatterjee's episode where he talks about completely eradicating alcohol from your life, which, like, you know, I haven't been able to do, but it's just really interesting how he talks with Andy Ramage about how he got rid of alcohol from his life, and obviously all of the different obstacles that you had to overcome, and breaking away from like peer pressure and stuff. And I thought that was really interesting. And they particularly reference James Prochaska's spiraling model of change, which is all about the idea of how, as you're trying to adopt a better habit, it's not a circular motion. It's that you don't break a circle when you fail. So a lot of people think you start in a circle and you're going around, you're sticking with the habit, and then as soon as, say, you eat meat, boom, that's the circle broken and that's the end. But that's just the beginning. And he talks about how you get further along and gradually you might break it, but then you continue down a spiral, and again you break it, but every time you're breaking it, it's getting closer and closer to that end goal of where you want to be, which I thought was interesting. And yeah, a lot of people end up giving up on, say, I did it this year with trying to do a dry January. I broke it on like probably the 8th of January, and I just gave up on it. But it's all about, if you do fail, sticking to your principles, trying to get where you want to be, and gradually working your way to the bottom of that spiral where you've adopted the identity change that you wanted. So yeah, in conclusion, obviously, to get to a point where you want to be vegetarian, it's all about trying to make it more attractive and easier. And if you want more details about how you can do this, I would highly advise reading James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. And to help you on your journey, which plays another big impact in how how the podcast is going to try and develop to the point where we can actually have big impact, is I've made a website, and I'll put the link in the description below the video. But this is just going to be a slightly easier port of call, which is going to be like, I want it to be like a one-stop kind of site to go onto and just explore how you can make lifestyle changes that produce less pollution, less waste, but also lead to you getting more value from your life. So yeah, go check that out. I'm going to be kind of developing some of the ideas that I talk about in the podcast a little bit more, because I know some of the things that I touched upon here I haven't quite explained amazingly, but I think it would be slightly easier in articles and whatnot. And also, yeah, just get in touch if you know anything that would suit the site. Like if you've got any good habits, it's easy to just shoot across maybe like a product that you've got or an article that you've got, and I can we can work together, and I'll just like whack it on the site, and hopefully between us we can start building a movement. And then obviously final 3 songs, no, 3 songs continuing with the theme of the podcast. And firstly, I'm going to pick out a song called Pin Seeker by Gene on Earth, a banging like kind of housey electro tune, which when I was at a festival called Eldorado last weekend, may have actually made someone have a heart attack, but it was alright. So happy days. And another one was Los Polos Hermanos by Nux, which I think is the name of his local chicken shop. And I seen Nux at Wireless last weekend as well, and that tune just went off. I already liked it before, but after seeing it at Wireless, like, I just rate it differently now. And finally, a tune called Forever Young by Claws, which are an up and coming indie band from Brum. So I definitely recommend checking that out. It came out this week, so yeah, bad boy tune. See you when I'm ready for the next podcast, which is going to be on the Watts. So the outer ring of Simon Sinek's Model of Change, and the Watts are just going to be as many quickfire ideas, I think, of what you can do and eat, etc., to enjoy having a vegetarian lifestyle. Peace.